And we are back. That's right. The phone ran out of memory. Had to upload what I've recorded so far. I'm doing this as a two-parter. It's the next day. It's all for you, you fucking bastards. You see what you make me do? Okay, let's keep going. Alright, we got Quick, which I've never watched, but I will. Got A Quiet Place on 4K, which I remember seeing in the theater. This was a really impressive directorial effort from John Krasinski. Can't wait for the second one if it ever comes out. Because it's Corona time, and who knows when things are actually coming out and in what format. Rabid, David Cronenberg's classic, which I've kind of debated with people. Does this count as a zombie film or what? Because, people... Like, this seems to me to have predated a lot of the kind of pandemic... infection type of zombie interpretations that we get today. And there's the difference is like there's a typhoid Mary carrier, like an original asymptomatic carrier of this virus, and it's just something that I think that it's definitely worth studying through the lens of the modern zombie film, and this was back in 1977. And so definitely we're studying through that lens, but also through the lens of a modern pandemic that we're all going through right now. And then followed up with the Saska Sisters remake of Rabid, which I would highly recommend. It's not the same movie, but that's good. They do their own thing with it, and they do it very well. And this definitely has Laura Vandervoort's best performance that I have ever seen. I'm surprised that this doesn't have a Criterion Collection release yet, Raging Bull. It's Siskel and Ebert here, the best film of the decade of the 1980s, maybe? I don't know. I mean, this was definitely a grower for me because, see, I saw this when I was young, and I was so used to Rocky at that time. This is kind of the anti-Rocky because, well, Jake LaMotta was a real person, number one. Number two, the real guy and his character in the film, he's profoundly unlikable, extraordinarily self-destructive and jealous and petty and bullish, bullying, and, just extremely violent in and out of the ring, self-destructive, just, he's someone that, again, he's like the anti-Rocky, so... he's someone that, it's definitely, if you're in that mindset, if you want to see what a real life person that is that self-destructive and that much a cause of his own just limitations, then this is definitely for you. It's beautifully shot, black and white, extremely brutal. It's a grower, definitely, and I think it's definitely Martin Scorsese, one of his best, if not, objectively. A lot of people have said it's his best film, which, again, I don't know. I mean, my favorite is Hugo, but who knows? But still, it needs a Criterion release, or a 4K or a something. Another one that needs a Criterion release, Rain Man, the Best Picture winner of 1988. Which one of my favorite Tom Cruise performances. Dustin Hoffman absolutely deserved that Oscar. I mean, I love the script, love the direction. I mean, there's... what can I say about it that hasn't already been said? It's Rain Man. And I'm gonna get some tea here to wake me up. Because it's the next day, you fuckers. Let's keep going. We got Real Steel. And I've not watched this for a long time and eager to rewatch it because I wasn't really keen on it when I first saw it, but maybe I will the second time. It's for, kind of boxing but with robots. Now, why didn't they call it Rock'em Sock'em Robots? I imagine maybe they couldn't get the license or something, but that's basically what it is. I think if they'd have called it Rock'em Sock'em Robots, then I think that it might have, elevated it just a bit. Red Riding Hood with Amanda Seyfried with that cool lenticular slip. Still gotta watch it. Rendell Dark Vengeance with the slip. Still need to watch it, but it's a Finnish superhero film. How cool is that? The Return of the Living Dead. Oh, look at that. Return of the Living Dead. Really great zombie film. Very entertaining, kind of comedy, but also it reinvented the zombie as a concept. And it was what's his face, Russo, John Russo, based on, I guess, a novel that he did. And he was one of the creative people behind Night of the Living Dead. And this is kind of like if you were to look at Night of the Living Dead almost as like an evolutionary tree, where it has a common ancestor, but then all these other things spin off from it. This is one of those things. And here the zombies, they can speak. They specifically feed on brains, and they do so because it helps to take the pain away briefly, the pain of being dead. And it's just I just like the way that they reinvented the zombie. They're extremely hard to kill. Like, you have to destroy every last bit of them. You can't just shoot them in the head, like you can with the Romero zombies. Yeah, I just think there's more to the zombie in this one. So definitely recommend it. It's really fun, really iconic. And then there's this piece of shit, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which is basically like Part 1, but infinitely worse. That's really the review of it. I was shocked at how much it just kind of treads on the same ground, but just infinitely worse. I couldn't believe how bad this was, but again, it's part of the series. Now, my favorite of the Return of the Living Dead series is the third one. I think this one, it's so good that we get, a love story that we really buy. And I love the look of our leading lady who becomes a zombie. I love the fact that, again, why she becomes a zombie is because it was her boyfriend's attempt to save her life. And it backfires horribly, but I think it really humanizes the zombie in a way that we still haven't seen replicated since. And I think it just improves on everything that the other ones were doing many, many times over. So yeah, highly recommend this one. And I think it's safe to say that our lovely lady's something of a zombie, wouldn't you say? Return to Oz. Don't be fooled by that innocuous-looking cover. This is a really dark, fucked up movie, and that's why it's awesome. And put out by Disney in 1985, so yeah. Not really a, stylistically direct sequel to the Warner Brothers owned, originally released by MGM, original 1939 film. Even though they had to pay MGM, they had to pay them royalties or whatever to use the ruby slippers instead of the silver shoes, which are, what they're able to use from the public domain, but the ruby slippers are more recognizable to most people. Highly recommend this film if you want, like, a really dark, disturbing, awesome movie. The Revenant, with this super cool custom cover here. Absolutely love this film. My favorite of 2015 by far. Leonardo DiCaprio, he absolutely deserved that Best Actor Oscar. Took him long enough. It wasn't for lack of trying, let me tell you. The Academy just finally decided that, him eating, intestines and stuff and having to, freeze his ass off, quite literally, that was what he had to go through to get that Oscar. And my favorite my favorite moment in all of Oscar history was seeing the person in the bear suit up in the balcony. I was like, yes, that Oscars, do more of that, and then maybe I'll watch you again. And then we got Revenge of the Nerds with the Deadpool slip. But what's that? What's that is that this slip cover is... there's an adhesive on the inside here that I cannot get out. But anyway, this is actually, despite the slip cover, it's actually a 3-pack of Bachelor Party. There we go, finally. There you go. Bachelor Party, Revenge of the Nerds, and Porky's, which I still need to watch. That's why it was sticking on that adhesive on the back there. And then we got I think this is Jonathan Demme's final film before he died, Ricky and the Flash. This is another Diablo Cody script. Still need to watch. Excuse me. Still need to watch this. Um, and then we got an underrated exorcism film, The Rite, which Anthony Hopkins does a really good job in this film. Definitely, I think, an underrated film of its type. It apparently got some positive feedback even amongst Catholics and things. They which I mean technically I guess The Exorcist has too, but I mean this one they felt like it really got into the theological nuances of exorcism and why having those properly ordained priests and stuff, why that's important and that sort of thing. But yeah, I definitely recommend that. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a movie called The Rocket, or Maurice Richard, depending on which. The English title is The Rocket, and Maurice Richard is the French title. But it's a Canadian film about a very, very prominent NHL player. This was nominated for a ton of awards at the Genie Awards. But yeah, I've been meaning to check that out. Then we got Rock'n'Rolla and Swordfish. Still need to watch these. The complete Rocky collection, signed by Lloyd Kaufman, because he was involved with helping the Philadelphia shoot for the first film, and he played the drunk that Rocky carries into the bar, which is pretty sweet. Absolutely love Rocky. Who doesn't? I still need to get Creed and Creed 2 on 4K, but yeah, highly, highly recommend the Rocky films. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? Not much. And then we got the Rocky Horror Picture Show, signed by our dear Barry Bostwick, and who played Brad in the film. And it's a cool digibook here. Yeah, it's pretty sweet here. I wonder how the Disney acquisition of 20th Century Fox, because see, this film officially it has never ever been pulled from release officially. Since 1979, it has been 75. It has been continuously running as a midnight movie to this day, and they've never officially pulled it. So it holds the Guinness World Record for the longest release of a film, which is pretty cool. Role Models, which I surprisingly really liked. It's got some funny parodies of LARPing and some good homages to like Love Gun era Kiss, and yeah, I was surprised how much I liked that. Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. It's a really fun movie. Something that not a lot of people talk about these days, which is too bad. They really should. I remembered finding this quite funny when I was a kid. And now we have the greatest film ever made, The Room. This movie will change your life. It really will. I mean, if you ever need, to be cheered up after a bad day, The Room is the movie to put in, because it will make you, it'll make you feel so much joy. As Tommy Wiseau would say, you can laugh, you can cry, you can express yourself, but please don't hurt each other. Got The Ruins, which I was impressed with how much I like this. This could do well for a Scream Factory release, I think. That one has Jenna Malone in it, who you may recall from Donnie Darko, and she's a really underrated actress, I have to say. Run All Night with Liam Neeson, still need to see it. Controversial film time, Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom, one of my pick for most disturbing film I've ever seen. But again, it's a cakewalk compared to the book. But yeah, this is not for the faint of heart or the weak of stomach. But yeah, this is the 3-disc BFI British Film Institute edition. Which the Criterion release only has 1 disc, so there you go. We got Saturday Night Fever and Grease, signed by Lloyd Kaufman because he was the location manager for Saturday Night Fever, and he was the one who selected the 2001 Odyssey disco as the disco for the film, which is pretty sweet. Um, I saw this movie in the theater, Sausage Party. This has that really out of print 4K slipcover, which is really awesome. Saw this in the theater. I don't think people were quite expecting a really dark comedy that's really fucked up, let alone one that looks like a animated film for kids. And when they came out of it, I remember hearing people go, "That was so disturbing," and I just laughed and laughed because I was like, clearly they don't know that animation is not just for kids, and they clearly don't understand dark, fucked up humor. Not that a lot of people necessarily do, because it is kind of an acquired taste. Speaking of which, I gotta lubricate my voice. And now we got the Saw series. Oh boy. Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5, Saw 6, Saw the final chapter. Why they didn't learn from Friday the 13th, I have no idea. That was the dumbest titling situation ever. I even prefer the title of Saw 3D over this, but I guess that they did it because they tried to have some kind of finality with the series that they never got, because guess what? They got Jigsaw soon after. Well, not too soon. 7 years later. Jigsaw, this cool Best Buy Steelbook, which, what's that? It's the 4K disc in there, even though this Steelbook is normally only Blu-ray DVD. That's right. It's because I managed to find it with just the Blu-ray disc, and then I found the 4K disc, popped them together. I've really grown to like the Saw series. It's not one that I liked initially. That's a grower. It's an acquired taste. If you are interested in sadism and in people's ability to, torture and be cruel to each other, then it's a series for you. But also, if you like a series that just really gets more intricate over time with how all the various plot points tie together, it actually feels, in many ways, a little bit like seasons of television, but, all in the course of a series, because it cuts back and forth in time, and there's all kinds of intricacies and different things. I'd recommend it, but only if you have the stomach for it. And then, let's keep going. We got David Cronenberg's Scanners. Basically, David Cronenberg's X-Men, I like to call it. It has a lot in common with X-Men, but it's quite good for what it is. Really, really good sci-fi film. And then we got Nicolas Cage film, A Score to Settle, which I still need to watch. I'm trying to get his total complete filmography in the collection, because there's a lot that you can learn from him as an actor, someone that takes risks. Scorsese shorts. This was a new acquisition. These were some of Martin Scorsese's short films, obviously, given the title. And those include Italian American, American Boy, The Big Shave, It's Not Just You, Murray, What's a Nice Girl Doing, Like You Doing in a Place Like This. And yeah, these were the ones that kind of helped formulate his filmmaking talent and kind of demonstrate his emerging creative voice at the time. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I saw this in the theater. I am shocked that this film did not get a Best Cinematography nomination. It is gorgeously shot. It's not really a very faithful adaptation of the short story, but it's a good modernization of it, and they do manage to make a full narrative plot out of a short story that doesn't really yield itself to like a classical film narrative. I enjoyed it, though. A lot of people didn't, but I liked it for what it was. It's not really one that you can easily sum up in terms of story, and it doesn't fit into a lot of the neat genre categories or anything. And it's a PG rated film, if I recall. But it's not really a kids film. It's just more of a film that it would be okay for kids to see it, but it's not really a kiddie film. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I like the message of it. I can relate to someone that, has a big imagination and fantasizes about things. And then we got See No Evil 1 and See No Evil 2, both signed by Kane, which is so fucking cool. The second one overall is better than the first because it's the Soska sisters. Um, and it's got Danielle Harris, it's got Catherine Isabel. They're fantastic. I've met Kane in person, obviously, because he signed him for me. He's a really, really nice guy in person. He's so physically huge. He could like crush your skull with one hand. Like his hands are that massive. But he's a really, really nice guy. Very much a gentleman, very approachable, and now he's the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. So there you go. And I met him during the campaign race, which was pretty cool. Seeking a Friend for the End of the World, which I still need to watch. I love that Canadian slipcover design there. And speaking of Canadian slipcover designs, we got Seven Psychopaths, which I still need to watch, and looking forward to it because I love the cast, especially Christopher Walken, who, of course, he's up there with Nicolas Cage as far as someone to learn from and someone who just, there's no one else like him on planet Earth. Sex, Lies, and Videotape, one of my favorite films ever. This is such a profound drama film for its time, 1989. Highly recommended if you've never seen it. Steven Soderbergh's, Steven Soderbergh's theatrical film debut, which is quite an impressive one. Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD, signed by Lloyd Kaufman. This is one of my favorites. I know that Lloyd wasn't overly happy with how much he felt like he had to compromise with this film. But I mean, I honestly really liked what it was going for. I mean, I think that it had possibly more of a mainstream appeal than some of his other ones, which normally I like it when they go fully batshit insane, and I think most people do, but I think this is one where the mainstream appeal to me actually worked more so than it didn't hold it back. In other words, I think it actually helped. I think that'd be a good kind of entree film for Troma if you want to kind of go in easy. Shadow People, which I actually saw a real shadow person in real life, which was pretty cool. And that was before I heard of this movie, but I need to watch it again. It's been a while. Got The Shallows with Blake Lively, that cool lenticular 4K slip. Saw this in the theater. Really enjoyable. You don't see a whole lot of like serious shark movies, let alone ones in the theater. But this one did it really well. I was impressed, and it didn't have to copy Jaws either, which was nice. Shark Night, which I still need to watch. Got that cool Canadian slip there. Another theatrical shark film. I think that one's only a PG-13 though. But The Shallows was too, and it actually managed to be pretty tense for what it was. Sharknado. Oh, I love the Sharknado films. I got Sharknado 1, Sharknado 2. This one's probably my favorite. And then we got Sharknado 3, Sharknado The Fourth Awakens, signed by Lloyd Kaufman because he has a cameo in the film, which is so cool. Sharknado 5, Global Swarming, which I still need to watch. And the last Sharknado, It's About Time, which I still need to watch. But I love the Sharknado films, I really do. They're so self-aware, so just cheese-tastic fun. They know exactly what kind of film they're making, and they just go for it, which that's what I like. All Work and No Play makes Jack a dull boy. And The Shining and Dr. Sleep, both of the awesome Best Buy exclusive 4K steelbooks. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. For a lot of people, it's their favorite Stanley Kubrick film. It's certainly one of his best. I think for me, it just kind of barely misses out on the top 4, which for me are like Doctor Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, and Barry Lyndon. I think those are like the kind of the sweet spot for like the best Kubrick films. but it's still really good. It's a landmark of horror. I know so many Stephen King fans that absolutely hate this film because of how much it deviates kind of thematically from the book, but I mean, I love. Ideologically, I'm much more in Stanley Kubrick's camp, in terms of like his themes and his more like, I guess, kind of cynical view of human nature. Because this is more about someone who kind of found the right time and place to snap, as opposed to like Stephen King's original vision for the story, which was essentially good man that is destroyed and made vulnerable to spiritual possession by alcohol, which obviously that was based on his own real life demons with alcoholism. But this was, again, Stanley Kubrick's more cynical, more dark view of humanity in general, because there's themes of like Native American genocide in this. Like they use the phrase "the white man's burden," Lloyd, my man, white man's burden, and things like that. Highly recommend it though if you've never seen it. Although let's be honest, you probably have. But Doctor Sleep, the Mike Flanagan, definitely a worthy person to carry that torch, if ever there was one. He, I do not envy his position, because he basically, like, if Stanley Kubrick and Stephen King, if they're like divorced parents, then he's like the kid who has to like try to get them to reconcile. And I think he mostly succeeds in this. Like, he manages to blend what Stephen King was originally going for in the first in the Shining book, but also in the Doctor Sleep book. He manages to fuse those elements with what Stanley Kubrick had established in his film. He manages to marry the two together really well. It's very long, so I definitely, not recommend it as far as like just casual, viewing. But it's very long, but it's worth it. And I think that if you're in either camp, Stanley Kubrick or Stephen King, this will help to kind of bridge the gap, I should hope. And visually, he very faithfully recreates the look of the Overlook Hotel as designed by Stanley Kubrick and his crew. And like he carries over certain movie exclusive elements like the twins and things like that. It's quite a trip to be back in the Overlook Hotel and to have it look that accurate to what it looked like in 1980. I've heard a friend say that it would have been more spectacular if Ready Player One hadn't come out before that and kind of took us back to the Overlook Hotel. Which, yes, probably, but at the same time, that was, in a virtual world, and it wasn't like this. So, yeah. Shoot 'em up with that super cool Canadian lenticular slip. I heard good things about this, that it's sort of like a self-aware, kind of deliberately, violent, trashy action film. And apparently, like, Paul Giamatti really acts over the top in it, that's always fun. And then we got a film that desperately needs a Shout Factory release, a Shout Select. I'd take a Criterion release for Showgirls. That's right. I love Showgirls. It's so campy. It's so, like, it's basically a big budget sexploitation film. And a lot of people have now gotten they've gotten some of the more satirical aspects of it. And, I have too. But again, it's so campy. It's so quotable. It's so great. I love it. Very controversial, very notorious, because it won a bunch of Razzies and, effectively killed the NC-17 rating. But I'd still recommend it. It's so much fun. It's so quotable. We got Shrooms, which I still need to watch, but a good friend gave that to me. Region-free Blu-ray there. And then we got Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan alien invasion film that in many ways was sort of like Steven Spielberg kept trying to get a movie called, I think it was like Night Skies made, which was basically this film, essentially. You know, a family, it's like a home invasion thriller, but with aliens, and that's essentially what Signs ended up being. Spielberg wasn't like directly involved with this or anything, but like you can tell that that basic idea influenced this. Um, but this is definitely one of M. Night Shyamalan's best films, and I think that it's one that, as you peel back the layers, that there's more to it than you might have even grasped if you were to just do a surface level analysis of it. See Chris Stuckman's Signs Analyzed video for further information. Silence. That was Signs. This is Silence. One of my favorite Scorsese films by far. It's one that was not seen by nearly as many people as it should have been. But I think it is. It's just like spiritually, it's like a shattering film to watch, because it's all about how a person can be absolutely just broken down, with everything that ever meant anything to them just being stripped away, incrementally until there's nothing left. It's quite something to watch. And then we got Silent Hill, the amazing Scream Factory slip of that, and Silent Hill Revelation in 3D with that super cool Canadian slip there. Looks a lot cooler than the American one. Even though the American one's cool too, because it's got a lenticular, but I've only seen the first one so far. I'm going to watch the second one, but I really liked the first one a lot. It seemed like it was a faithful realization of the games, and I like that it used the real music from the games. I think that was really good for faithfulness, because Silent Hill has really iconic music, so it's really good that they brought it into the forefront there. Silent House, this super cool Canadian slip. You've heard me say that many, many times, but it still keeps being true. And Elizabeth Olsen's in there. Apparently, this is shot to look like it's one single shot. And again, this is one of many films that did that before Birdman. Birdman, like I loved the technical aspects of it, but like it's not the first time someone's done that whole continuous shot thing. Or the illusion of it, rather. Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Garbage Day! Still gotta watch these, but I'm gonna probably wait until, obviously, Christmas time to watch those. And then Silver Linings Playbook, which, what a great ensemble cast. For the first 2/3 of the film, it feels so raw and so real, and it doesn't feel movie-ish at all. Like, it feels very much like a slice of life. The third act feels a little bit more movie-ish, but at the same time, the first 2/3 of it were so not movie-ish and so, like, this feels so real and so raw, that it kind of, some people were kind of turned off by it, but I still thought it was an amazing, amazing film. Jennifer Lawrence won Best Actress for this. I personally thought Bradley Cooper acted circles around her, even though I think she did well. I've seen her give performances that I think were more deserving of the Oscar, but not not gonna say no to that. That's for sure. Then we got Sin City and Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. Really great adaptations of the Frank Miller comics, and the first one is definitely better than the second. The second one's a solid sequel if you like the first one, but the first one has more energy and more of a cohesive structure than the second one does. The second one's a little bit more like vignettes, which, I mean, technically this one is too. The structure of this film, they clearly lifted from Pulp Fiction, because it flows very much like how Pulp Fiction flows. But still, it's more cohesive, and they're both extremely technically impressive. There are no other films that really look like this except for The Spirit, which both of these, Robert Rodriguez shared directing credits with Frank Miller, and Frank Miller went on to do The Spirit, and that's why it looks similar. But it's something that, again, these are technical marvels and really good and if you're a comic book fan, it's just a really cool realization of an author's work in as literal and like technically marvelous, forward thinking a way as you can manage. We're making our way through, people. We are. Next up, The Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan's best film by far. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? It's iconic. It's more of a supernatural drama, I think, than even really a horror film, or maybe you could say a supernatural thriller. You know, it's such a brilliant acting. Haley Joel Osment just kicked it completely. Kicked ass, knocked it completely out of the park. But you all know that, don't you? Skeleton Key, still need to watch this. Got it for cheap. Skyline, still need to watch this. Got it for cheap with this super cool Canadian slip. How many times can I possibly say that in this video? Slave of the Cannibal God, I got this in a multi-pack purchase on eBay for a bunch of other Code Red films here. Another cannibal film. Still need to watch this one, but, you know, this one's got Ursula Andress in it, so, you know, that kind of sets it apart from the rest. And then possibly my favorite Disney film of, like, of the period of the company in which Walt Disney himself was actually alive, except for maybe Fantasia. That might be my number one, but very closely followed by Sleeping Beauty. Best Disney villain ever. You all knew that. But yeah, I think that this is, for that classic era of Disney, I think that, and as far as like the princess fairy tale ones are concerned, this is probably the best. And then it's helped by the fact that it's got the Tchaikovsky score too. Got Slumber Party Massacre, that awesome Scream Factory Steelbook. Still need to watch it. And I have the action figure in the poster too, which you saw the action figure earlier. Slumdog Millionaire, Best Picture winner. Really amazing film. This was kind of the little movie that could, because it was originally supposed to be a direct-to-DVD release, which is unbelievable. And it went on to win 8 Oscars, including Best Picture. So, yeah, I'm just so glad that it was something different and something, you know, and about a country that's not, you know, like a Western country, you know. It's, just watch it, but you probably have already. The first feature-length animated film ever made, as far as I know. I've heard some dispute about that, but for sure in the United States, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, absolutely foundational for the art of animation. You know, it's so, everything we know about animation is because of this film. So watch it if you haven't, which I'm sure you have, but it's the story is very simple, but it's so archetypical and so foundational that I think we're often not appreciative of just what this started. And there's nothing wrong with simple, nothing wrong with archetypical. And then we got The Social Network here. By far and away the best film of this century, of the 21st century as far as I'm concerned. David Fincher's best film by far. Aaron Sorkin's best script. I mean, some of the best editing I've ever seen in any film. I cannot say enough good things about it. Thank you to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for that amazing score. Thank you to the Academy for recognizing it and for giving them that Oscar. They deserved it. Thank you for just recognizing electronic music and why it's important. I can't say enough good things about it. I want to see them do a sequel covering like the trials, the congressional hearings in the wake of the 2016 election. I think that would actually be pretty good material for a sequel. The Soloist, which I remembered seeing in the theater. I have not watched it since then, but I remembered liking it quite a bit. Got Iron Man and Electro together. That's pretty sweet. The AFI regards Some Like It Hot as the number one comedy film of all time, and I would certainly say that it's, if not number one, it's definitely up there. Really controversial for its time, but it holds up really well. It's extremely funny. Marilyn Monroe in an iconic performance. I mean, it's funny. It's really, really funny. Controversial film time. Oh boy. Song of the South. This is a bootleg because Disney doesn't want to touch this film with a 10-foot pole. The restoration on this one is actually not too bad, but it's one that you'll probably never see an official release of this, at least in the United States, but probably not internationally either. But it's one that I can see why they don't really want to touch this film, because it's one of those ones that, it's easy for people to, kind of, I don't want to say to get the wrong idea about, because I'm not sure that there's a right idea to get about this, because it definitely downplays the horrors of slavery, even though this takes place after the Civil War, but you wouldn't really know that because they don't spell it out for you. But it definitely downplays the politics of the era, the dehumanizing effects of slavery, all that stuff. Which again, you wouldn't really expect that in a children's film, but at the same time, it's one of those things that's just, it's probably more trouble than it's really worth. And plus, there's the term tar baby, which in the film is quite literally that. It is a baby made out of tar. But even so, it's gone on to be called it's a racial slur now, and that sort of thing. But even if you took all of that away, the live action segments in this are pretty boring, to be honest. The animation is really good when you get to the animated segments, and we wouldn't have the song Zippity Doo-Dah without this film, and Splash Mountain as we knew it, but I guess that they're retooling it now to be Princess and the Frog theme now. But we got Sonic the Hedgehog, the Steelbook, Best Buy exclusive Steelbook. It was okay. I wasn't, blown away with it, but it would have been an absolute train wreck if Paramount hadn't gone back in and actually made Sonic look like Sonic. Thank you for doing that. This did lay the groundwork for what I imagine will be better sequels, and Jim Carrey, of course. I love Jim Carrey. We got South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and I need to get the rest of the show on Blu-ray. It's just, there's so many seasons, but thank you for still putting them out on physical media, unlike so many shows these days. But yeah, amazing film. I love Trey Parker, Matt Stone. I love everything that they do. I think they're really talented people. They're one of the few people that they actually will say it like it is, and they're not beholden to any person. They do their thing, and off they go. Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus, the Best Buy exclusive Steelbook. Probably my least favorite Stanley Kubrick film, not because it's bad, because it's not, but because it doesn't feel like a Stanley Kubrick film. It feels like something that Kirk Douglas really, really, really wanted to do, and he did. He's the star. He was the producer, had a very big sway over the thing. So it feels like, just because of how the power dynamics were at the time, when a decision needed to be made and they were at a crossroads to do it Stanley's way or do it Kirk's way, they did it Kirk's way, obviously, which I know Kubrick didn't really like, but this was an essential stepping stone for his career, and it allowed him to have the financial and critical cachet to do what he wanted to do from then on. So yeah, kind of necessary, because without it we wouldn't have the other ones. And then we got Speed with the Deadpool slip. And what's that? Speed, Broken Arrow, and Entrapment. And I need to watch Speed again. It's been so long. And then I need to see the other two as well. I know that Entrapment's got that one scene with Catherine Zeta-Jones that was kind of the sole reason why the movie was made, pretty much. But hey, I can think of dumber reasons. Sorry, my voice is getting really mucusy, but that's okay because I've got some tea here to help me. We got the Spider-Man set here from Best Buy, the Steelbook set. This has Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. All the pre-MCU Spider-Man films. Spider-Man is my number one favorite superhero, always has been, always will be. I'll never ever forget. I've seen like every Spider-Man film except for Into the Spider-Verse. Saw it in the theater. Um, Loved them. My favorite is I always flip flop between whether one or two of the Sam Raimi films. Always flip flop back and forth as to which is my favorite. I think Spider-Man 2 is probably objectively better. I have more fond memories of seeing the first one in the theater when I was a kid, and like it was everything I wanted it to be. It was what I dreamed of seeing ever since I was, well, even younger than that. Um, but I finally got to see it on the big screen, and for me, it didn't disappoint. And I liked the other ones too, even Spider-Man 3, even though that one is definitely the least good out of all of them. And people really hate the Amazing Spider-Man films, and especially the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's actually my favorite Spider-Man suit out of all of them. I think, because I like the MCU suit, I like that this one, like, physically isn't, like, CGI altered, and I like that it's just a suit. It's not, like, a wondrous piece of Stark technology, even though obviously that has a precedent with the Iron Spider suit and everything. Um, but yeah, I'm old fashioned. Goddammit, I like my Spider-Man with just a suit and the web shooters and all that stuff. But as far as that goes, Spider-Man: Homecoming, the Best Buy exclusive steelbook. As far as introducing Spider-Man into the MCU, Captain America: Civil War did a great job of it, and then this just continued that legacy really, really well. Um, this series and Far From Home here, the Best Buy exclusive steelbook here, they have done a lot of really great things with like realizing some of the more obscure villains on screen, or the ones that the public's not as familiar with, like Mysterio and the Vulture. And I'm holding this upside down. The Vulture, Mysterio, and then they have like the Tinkerers in here, Max Gargan, the Scorpions in here, the Shocker, and they're all like in little roles, but they're still in here. And then like they have some of the elementals in here, they call them like Molten Man, Hydro Man, things like that. So they are able to work in these other more obscure villains in some way, which I think is really brilliant. But yeah, Tom Holland does a great job as Peter. I would like to see them get out of high school Peter. I'd like to see him get to like married life Peter, because and that's where the Sam Raimi series was trying to go, but it ended before that could really be fully realized. Spider-Man: Homecoming with that, sorry, Into the Spider-Verse with that amazing Best Buy exclusive steelbook. I got this steelbook as just the steelbook with no discs, so that way I could pop in the Blu-ray and the 4K disc in there, because normally this has just the Blu-ray and DVD. But some people call this the best Spider-Man film ever made, which I find it's hard to compare, honestly, because, well, A, it's animation versus live action, and B, this is the first and, as of right now, only Miles Morales-centric Spider-Man film that we've had. The other ones have all been Peter Parker-centric. Even though Peter Parker's in here, he's more of a mentor figure. So in other words, I don't know if that's really a fair comparison. Until we got more Miles Morales on screen, then I think we'll be able to compare more readily. But this film is a really great celebration of all the various Spider people throughout continuities. Like, you had Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, you got all kinds of different versions of Spider-Man all together. And so, I mean, it's got to be one of the most stunning animated films I've ever seen, and it definitely deserved that Oscar for Best Animated Film. And I have to say, Sony Pictures Animation, like, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve as far as doing interesting, different things with animation than Pixar or DreamWorks are doing. Like with Hotel Transylvania, those looked like they looked and moved and felt like 2D cartoons that had been made into 3D, if that makes sense. Just the timing of the movement, the everything, it felt like 2D that finally got fully realized into 3D. And then we got the Spectacular Spider-Man, the complete series, which I still need to finish this show, but I love it. From what I recall, I'll always my Spider-Man, quote unquote. Well, it's I you know I love all of Spider-Man, but like the one that I have the fondest memories of is the animated series from 1994. Christopher Daniel Barnes, to me, that's how Spider-Man sounds in my head. But that series will always be special for me. But this series, objectively, I think it is better with its storytelling and with doing things differently. I don't like the animation style as much, but the actual quality of the animation is better. Um, but yeah, overall, I think it's just got more solid storytelling. Even though the '90s series, it had solid storytelling too in its own right, but people give that series so much hate these days, and I don't know why. I think it's really unfair. Um, and we got Spookies, which my friend Frank Farrell, he was so stoked when this got a Vinegar Syndrome release. And I'm so glad it did because this film, for such a long time, it was only available on VHS. It hadn't even been released on DVD in the US. But it finally got a US Blu-ray release, and I'm just glad that he's kind of seeing how much, people that grew up with it, how much they really loved the film, because I know that he felt like it hurt his career a lot, but now it's like kind of caused a renaissance for it, which I'm very happy for him. Spotlight with that Canadian slip, Best Picture winner, solid movie. I don't think it touched The Revenant or Mad Max Fury Road personally, but solid movie. And I like that slip a lot more than the American one. Spy, which I still need to watch. I know that there are a lot of Melissa McCarthy fans out there. I'm kind of hit and miss with her, but I think she's definitely got what it takes to be a good dramatic actress. Saint Agatha, still need to watch this. It was included in my horror pack for last month or whatever. Stan Lee's Mighty Seven, rest in peace, Stan Lee. I got this at a Dollar Tree, I think, and still need to watch it. And then we got the Kelvin timeline of Star Trek 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond, all in 4K. I like this particular series of the rebooted Star Trek films. A lot of people don't, but the first one, I'd say, it's hard to say because I like them all so much. I think Beyond is possibly the most faithful to the original spirit of Star Trek. But I think that the first two had more memorable plots and situations. I think Into Darkness, you relied a little too much on Wrath of Khan for its plot. The first one's still the best because it's such a tightly scripted film. It's really great action, great screenwriting, great moments. It's a really, really good example of how to just do a blockbuster film really tightly scripted and 2 hours. It's done really well. I think J.J. Abrams was able to bring Star Trek into the modern age in a way that a lot of people didn't think was possible. Now we got Star Wars, boys and girls. We're going to start off with so these are the fan restored original versions of Star Wars, the Star Wars Holiday Special, so horrible, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. They are the fan restored versions of the films because obviously George Lucas went back and made all the changes, but these films, they go back and they undid all the changes, and so the original versions of the film that all of us fell in love with, for those of us who are old enough to remember, that they are preserved, which is important because we're all about film history around here. Even something as terrible as the holiday special, and I put these in between that one in between Star Wars and Empire because chronologically that's where it goes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I wish that Disney would put out like an official version of the original versions in addition to the special editions. You don't have to do it instead of, because there are some special edition changes that I like or I think are perfectly acceptable. Some I hate, but other ones I think are perfectly good. But still, you got to preserve the original versions just because otherwise you're rewriting history. Can't do that. Anyway, now we get to the 4Ks of The Phantom Menace, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which people absolutely hate this film. I don't. Like, I think it's got some of the worst elements of Star Wars, like young Anakin and Jar Jar Binks, but it's got some of the best elements too, like the lightsaber fight, the pod race, the newness of it, the all the integration of CGI with practical effects and real sets. This film, I think, did that the best of the prequels. Um, by far and away, the worst Star Wars movie, Attack of the Clones. There's almost nothing redeemable in this movie. It just feels really soulless to me. I could go on and on. And then Revenge of the Sith, probably the best of the prequels. The integration of live action stuff with CGI was better in The Phantom Menace. There's some stuff the CGI in here some of the creatures can look kind of cartoony, but still very dark themes. Very it really is the one of the prequels, the only one of the prequels that you feel like, okay, this this has a lot of weight to it, and a lot of like the things that happen here are really, this is like kind of essential, like things that help to lay the groundwork for the rest of the films to come. Not to say the other ones didn't have their elements, but like this one is the most consequential, I think, out of all of them. And then going in internal series chronology, Solo, which this one, like, it's solid, but it's like, out of all the Star Wars movies, it's kind of forgettable, which I never thought I would say, but about a Star Wars movie. But it's solid, but it's not great. Now, I loved Rogue One, to be honest. I really did. I liked it more than The Force Awakens, and a lot of people didn't, but I liked it quite a lot. I love the scene with Darth Vader, or the scenes with Darth Vader, but especially the one scene towards the end. Really loved Jyn Erso as a character. Loved K2SO, the droid. I really liked the characters a lot. And I just liked that it felt like it had a lot of pathos and a lot of weight to it. And then we got The Force Awakens, or sorry, New Hope, which Force Awakens relied a little bit too much on A New Hope for its plotting, but of course, the one that started it all. This is the special edition, of course, but this one has the most changes out of all of them, which is too bad because it's obviously the one that we wouldn't have all the others without it. But I know that George was really disappointed with the results that he got because of his limitations with shooting. But with CGI, he was able to go back and complete his vision. Again, be like Ridley Scott and give us the original versions in addition to the director's cut. That's what I say. Empire, of course, my favorite of all of the Star Wars films and probably the objective best. This film really, just this whole scene right here, that is probably my favorite whole sequence in any film. It's so archetypical, good versus evil and darkly lit. It's just smoky and dim. It's awesome. Return of the Jedi, probably the least good of the original trilogy, but still solid. I think this one actually has benefited the most from being part of a larger series because there's, 3 additional movies behind the 2 that precede this. So in other words, there's a lot more weight to this, and I'm talking like mainline saga. If you throw in Solo and Rogue One, then you got even more. But this one, there's a lot of weight to it when you throw in those other movies. But out of all the original trilogy films, this one's probably the least good, but it's still really good. And then we got The Force Awakens, which kind of helped to reintroduce Star Wars to a new generation. Again, relied a little bit too much on A New Hope for its plotting, but I love Rey, I love Finn, I love Poe Dameron, love Kylo Ren. You know, I think it did what it needed to do, which was it needed to reintroduce Star Wars to a new generation. It needed to kind of help to wash away the stink of the prequels in a way, you know, and it needed to set up 2 more films. I mean, I think it accomplished what it set out to do. I just kind of wish that it had been a little bit more original, I guess. Which and that came to bite them in the ass with The Last Jedi, which out of all the sequel trilogy, this one's my favorite by far, because this one is kind of the exact opposite of The Force Awakens. This one relied too hard on what came before. This film just completely upends what came before, and that's what I liked about it. I thought I didn't want the same thing that I've seen before. I wanted something different and new. This is like a deconstruction of Star Wars and of those classical hero's journey themes. This feels very kind of Nietzschean in its philosophical underpinnings, and it really calls into question the dichotomy of good and evil in general. And it asks, you know, is it even moral to use the Force in any way, regardless of for good or evil purposes? And you know, it's about how Rey, at this point in the story, she is tries to go to the universe for some kind of external answer as to her purpose. And it looks like, you know, based on what Kylo Ren says, that, you know, her parents were nobodies, and she really, for all intents and purposes, her existence is kind of meaningless. And so she has to basically create her own meaning and her own significance in the world. And this is a Star Wars film that kind of posits that, you know, what if there is no such thing as destiny? What if our choices are really all we have? And that's an interesting continuation from, like, the prequels are all about destiny and prophecy and blah blah blah. The originals were all about, okay, there are the mistakes of the past, but we can also decide how we're going to progress. And then this film kind of posits, well, what if our decisions are all that we have? What if there is no, like, guiding principle? Nothing. I mean, there's the Force, but, like, what if there is no, like, sense of destiny or anything kind of beyond our choices? And I think that's really, really interesting. I loved what it had to say about just kind of facing the void of existence and how you have to really chart your own path in life. And some people would argue that The Rise of Skywalker undoes that by making, spoiler alert, by making Rey the granddaughter of Palpatine. I don't really think so, just because the lessons that she learned here still hold up, even though she finds out her true lineage. And finding out her true lineage doesn't help bring her comfort. If anything, it fucks her up even more. And you really get the sense that she's at risk in this film, which that was a complaint of mine with Return of the Jedi. I felt like Luke never really was at too much of a risk to fall to the dark side. Whereas here, you really are afraid for her, because, I mean, that's... what would you rather have? I'm a nobody, but I can also chart my own course in life, or I'm literally the spawn of Satan? That's what she's got to deal with in this movie. Some people said, oh, it's rushed, it's padded, or overstuffed, it's this, it's that. This had a 9-movie saga to wrap up, guys. You know, this had a lot on its shoulders, so, you know, it's not just wrapping up a trilogy, it's wrapping up 3 trilogies, so keep that in mind. I also, again, I like that Luke was kind of almost like a Force apostate in this film, only to get redeemed. But again, he doesn't fall to the dark side, he's like an apostate. You know, he doesn't practice the Force at all. He cuts himself off from it. But then here, you know, you get a sense of a redeemed Luke, but also Rey has to really fight for that place in the universe. That, again, she still has to make that choice to be the person that she chooses to be, but now she's got so much more weight on her shoulders. And I could go on and on about Star Wars, but that would be another extremely long video. What else do we have? Steve Austin, this 4 movie pack, this steelbook. We got Steve Jobs, very underrated Danny Boyle and Aaron Sorkin collaboration. Didn't get the love that I think it deserved. And then Stir of Echoes, which I don't know why this isn't out on Scream Factory, but still need to watch it. And then we got Stitches, a really great creepy clown film. Highly recommended if you're a fan of creepy clowns. And we got Stoker, the Zavvi exclusive metal pack with the beautiful Mia Wasikowska. Still need to watch this, but this is a region-free one. Yep. I'm glad that they got away from these metal packs because they're basically like steelbooks except less structurally sound. And then we got Stonehurst Asylum. Still need to watch it. Kate Beckinsale is gorgeous. Love Michael Caine. Love Jim Sturgis. Love Ben Kingsley. Adaptation of Poe. There you go. We got Strange Events. Horror pack exclusive. Still need to watch it. Stranger Than Paradise, the Jim Jarmusch film. I really enjoyed this film in college. It's very art house. It's very not for most people. It's a very much an acquired taste, but it's good for what it is. And we got The Strangers, the Scream Factory version. Still need to watch it. I'm going to clear this out, and then we'll be back for another installment. Stay tuned. Are you ready to die yet? Because I am. And we're back. Oh my god, my face hurts, my arm hurts, my shoulder hurts, my voice hurts, my spleen hurts. Everything hurts, but I do it for you. Anyway, Straw Dogs on Criterion. Still need to watch it. Glad that I have it because I love Sam Peckinpah. Street Fighter, the original movie with the amazing custom cover that I got. I really like this movie. It's cheese-tastic, but it actually adapts the games better than you think, and especially relative to the time, because Street Fighter didn't have quite the intricate lore that it has today. And actually certain elements from this film later got carried over, like Cammy being a good guy. You know, that eventually happened. And then Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li, which this is not good. It's really not. I like Kristen Crook a lot. Like, she was one of my earliest crushes on Smallville. I love her. And she's a good choice as Chun-Li, but it's just the script, it takes itself really seriously in areas that it shouldn't, and it doesn't take itself seriously in areas where it should. It seems like it's trying to have it both ways as far as being set in the, real world as opposed to, some kind of heightened reality, and yet it's got, the Kikoken and, things like that are more, martial arts, fantasy aspects. And I hate what they did with M. Bison. There's so many things about this that just don't work, and it's just not engaging. I don't know what the deal is. I prefer the cheesiness of the original because, like it or not, it's like, that's M. Bison. It looks like him. Raul Julia knocked it out of the park. He tragically died. He was actually sick with cancer, going through chemotherapy, but he did it because his kids love Street Fighter so much. And let me tell you, he gives his all. Like, this is a great performance to go out on, and most people praised this film just for his performance alone, if not, the rest of it, but I mean, this is unapologetic about the fact that it takes place, like, it's kind of sort of trying to be in the real world, but it's not afraid to be kind of cheesy and heightened reality. This is almost like trying to have it both ways and, like, take itself a little too seriously in certain spots and then not seriously enough in others. It's a mess. But Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, which I still need to watch, but I've heard really good things about it. This is that awesome limited edition steelbook, and look how cool Akuma looks. He looks exactly like he should, and Ryu and Ken look exactly like they should, so good that they got the design elements right. And then we got, if you are counting animation, and especially anime, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, is one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptation I can think of. Certainly one that I loved. Like, this one manages to just fuse all the different elements of Street Fighter together in such a way that it really, really works. This version of it with the slip here, this is the first fully uncut English language dub in high definition, with the slip. Glad to have it in the collection. And then Street Fighter 25th Anniversary Film Collection here, which has the I Am Street Fighter 25th Anniversary documentary, Street Fighter 2 the animated movie. This is like a standard, that one's like a standard def cut version of the movie. It's not the fully HD restored uncut version down there. Street Fighter 4 The Ties That Bind, Super Street Fighter 4 original film, and Street Fighter the animated series, which is pretty cool. If you're a Street Fighter fan, definitely worth picking up. Suicide Squad, the Best Buy exclusive steelbook. Look how beautiful that is. A lot of people hate this movie. I don't know why. I thought it was really fun. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, double, and perfect casting choice. I thought it was really fun. I do want to see the David Ayer cut, as does everyone. But for what I got, I liked it. I didn't mind that there wasn't a lot of Joker in it because it's not his movie. And I just feel bad for Jared Leto because I know he put in so much work into his characterization, but most of what he did was on the cutting room floor. So I'm hoping that with the David Ayer cut, if we ever get to see it, I'm hoping that more of his material will be restored and more of what I assume the darker tone was supposed to be, that more of that will be reinserted. But again, for what I got, I was entertained. I put this in a similar category to something like Kick-Ass, like sort of trashy fun. Not really, profound in any way, but I do want to see a darker take on it. And I'm also looking forward to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, because I think out of anybody, he'll have a really good grasp of those characters in that world. Sunrise, the F.W. Murnau silent German expressionist masterpiece. And I say that loosely because stylistically it's German expressionist, but it was actually made in America. And it won the first and only Academy Award for, it says Best Picture, but it was like Best Artistic Picture. It's basically almost like the Academy's equivalent of like the Palme d'Or in a way. So like more of an art house kind of experimental film. And it was the first and the only time that they gave that award. The one that won Best Picture that we know of that year, 1927, was Wings, which I still need to get in the collection. But this film, man, this is such a great film. It's so heartwarming, heartbreaking, so beautiful. It's called Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. That's the other little subtitle there. Just please see this movie. It's so good. F.W. Murnau and Fritz Lang, some of the best filmmakers of their era, without a doubt. And again, see silent movies. Trust me. Sunrise, the Danny Boyle sci-fi film that apparently has kind of a cult following now. Still need to watch it. Sunrise Cleaning. I love this movie. It's Emily Blunt and Amy Adams, who I just love the two of them, and I love the two of them together. Alan Arkin is in here. He does a great job. He plays their father, I believe. Their father. And they have a small business. The two sisters have a small business where they are the cleanup crew for crime scenes. That's right. So after all of the investigating's done, after all the evidence has been collected, all that stuff, all the forensic team, they've done their thing, these girls actually clean up all the blood and guts. How about that for a premise of a movie? They don't really advertise that front and center, but that's what it's about. And it's just so cool. I love movies about some of those weird occupations that you don't really think about, but someone's got to do it. And then we got James Gunn's Super, because we talked about Suicide Squad. We got James Gunn's Super, signed by Lloyd Kaufman, because he has a cameo in this film. Good, original, low-budget superhero film. Rainn Wilson does a great job. All of the actors do a great job in this. It's definitely brutal and, unforgiving and things like that, but it's good for what it's trying to be. maybe not for everyone, but it's good for what it's trying to be. And I love that the main character, he becomes a superhero because of like a personal crisis with his whatever it his wife. I couldn't remember if it was girlfriend or wife. His wife, a drug addict, leaves him, and he gets a vision from what he thinks is God, and tells him to go out and be a crime fighter, which who hasn't been there? Super Mario Brothers. This is the second site release. This is only in the UK. It's not been released on Blu-ray in the US for some reason. Only that really crappy DVD that has that fake 16:9. But this one, if you're gonna get it, this is the one to get. It is region B only, so just keep that in mind. But this is the first English language live action feature length video game adaptation ever. Didn't really start things off on a good foot, but it has a cult following nonetheless, and it is historically significant, especially as video game movies are starting to come into their own. And we got some Superman action for you. We got Superman, the theatrical cut in 4K, and we've got the what's his face, Richard Donner special edition. This is like his slightly longer definitive cut, and then you've got the 3-hour TV version on Blu-ray for the first time, which is pretty amazing. I think probably the best superhero film ever made, and certainly the one that set the standard. This is like the Snow White of superhero films, as far as like having launched the entire concept of a superhero on film. Any way you slice it, any cut that you watch, it's a great film. The most compact is definitely the theatrical cut. The Richard Donner cut is a good one as well. Adds a few things back in. For super fans, I'd recommend checking out the 3-hour version. There's some parts to it because of what they add back in. Some parts that are really slow, but there are other things that just that they add back in that help kind of flesh out the broader scope of the story. And like, you have a nice little coda of like Superman actually going back to get Lex Luthor and thanking Miss Tessmacher for setting him free, and just little things like that you're like, whatever happened to her, and whatever happened to such and such. Well, they actually answer that in here, so the footage of that does exist, and this cut it restores all that stuff. So if you want like the big, massive epic Superman movie, the 3-hour version's the one to check out. Even though it's a little slow, some things don't go as briskly as they probably should. But again, if you want like the full package deal, that's the one to check out. And then we got the region-free Superman motion picture anthology. This has the Richard Donner preferred cut of Superman 1, as well as the fucking spam callers. Anyway, yeah, this has the Superman theatrical cut, the Richard Donner extended cut, not the 3-hour cut. It's got Superman 2 theatrical cut, Superman 2 the Richard Donner cut, which is a much better cut, Superman 3, Superman 4 the Quest for Peace, and Superman Returns. I'm hoping that they put these out on 4K one day, but yeah, I'm glad to have that release. And it's got a shitload of extras, including a ton of documentaries. It's got all Superman and the Mole Men, that theatrical serial, or not serial. It's the theatrical film. It's got the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons, which are actually in the public domain now, which is amazing. Highly recommend that set if you're a Superman fan. And Man of Steel, which launched the DCEU, that beautiful lenticular digibook. And what's that? Oh, what just fell out? It's the 4K disc. Yeah, that's right. I threw it in there because I just like the look of this. I was afraid that the other one, like the proper 4K one, wouldn't have the features that this has. And I just like the digibook design, and I managed to find the 4K disc separately, so I just threw it in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film. It gave me the Superman that I wanted at the time, like darker and with a lot more spectacle, a lot more just like seeing Superman's powers fully realized, seeing like a massive knockdown, drag out battle between him and Zod. It didn't work for a lot of people. It worked for me for what I wanted from a Superman movie at the time. Yeah, that's my answer right there. Got the Death of Superman Steelbook and Reign of the Superman, the two-parter here, adaptation of those comic arcs. Really good adaptations, both on 4K. Great animated films. They do this story justice. Definitely recommend them if you're a fan of Superman and of the DC direct-to-video animated films in general. Speaking of which, look at that. A collection of a ton of them. We got, what all do we have? Superman, Shazam, The Return of Black Adam, Superman Doomsday, All-Star Superman, Superman Batman Public Enemies, Superman vs. the Elite, Superman Batman Apocalypse, Superman Unbound, and Justice League vs. Teen Titans. I guess that they just threw that in there because maybe they had extra space in the case. I don't know. But yeah, I love that cover. This was for the 80th anniversary of Superman's creation, which is really cool. Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, one of Tim Burton's best later period works. Got in a great musical. Sweet Smell of Success. I'd hate to take a bite out of you. You're a cookie full of arsenic. Ugh, such great dialogue. Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. You gotta say it like that. This is kind of the film that launched blaxploitation as a genre, but it was really pioneered by Melvin Van Peebles, who wrote it, directed it, starred in it, made it outside the studio system, created a whole genre in doing so, really paved the way for black filmmakers to, have a voice and have their movies get seen. Very controversial film for its time, but absolutely foundational for film history. Glad to have it on Blu-ray. When I unboxed this, I said Martin Van Peebles because I think in my brain his name sounds similar to Martin Van Buren. I think my brain just melded them together. That happens sometimes. This disc is loose in here. It's Sweetwater, this direct-to-video Western, with our dear January Jones from X-Men First Class, and of course from Mad Men, where she played Betty Draper, aka Satan. But eager to check this out. Got The Switch here with Jennifer Aniston and Jason Bateman and Jeff Goldblum and Patrick Wilson and slipcover. Still haven't watched it. Eager to watch it. Syriana, Michael Clayton, and Three Kings, 3 George Clooney films. We got The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is a fantastic found footage film. Highly recommend it. A lot of people I know were in this film or worked on it because it was shot in North Carolina. Definitely recommend it. Thank you, MVD Visual, for putting it out finally on Blu-ray in the US. Tale of Despero. It was $1, like a $1.90 something cents. Probably one of the cheapest Blu-rays I've ever gotten. And it had the slipcover. It's got mice. It's French. There you go. Still haven't watched it. We got Tales from the Crypt presents Bordello of Blood. Found this for really cheap with the slip. I was shocked. Still haven't watched it. I know, I'm terrible. My second favorite Scorsese film of all time, Taxi Driver. Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads. So good. This film, I can relate to this film, and I think a lot of people can. It's a masterpiece. It really is. I love that what they call the lonely man genre from the 70s. That's the best example of that kind of subgenre. Team America World Police, one of Trey Parker and Matt Stone's best offerings ever, and Marionettes. It's just such great satire. I love everything that they do. This is a bootleg of Teeth. This is on DVD but not on Blu-ray yet. Eager to check this out because it's about vagina dentata, which is a vagina with teeth. That's right. So I'm imagining a lot of penis-ripping goodness in this. We got Terminal with Margot Robbie. Eager to check this out. Glad I got it with the slip. We got The Terminator, the first one, with the Deadpool slip. There you go. It's a good first installment to that franchise, for sure. The best one, of course, is Terminator 2 Judgment Day with that super cool 4K slip. I've heard not great things about this 4K transfer, but I haven't watched it yet, but I have seen the movie. If you're, like I said before, Die Hard, as far as just straight action, that's probably the best action film ever made, but if you're putting in other genres like sci-fi here, if you're throwing that in, this is probably the best action film ever. And then Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, not really very good. I haven't watched it in forever, though, because I remembered James Rolfe said that, like, as an action film, it's a blast, even though mythologically wise they had to cheat the mythology, which I can understand. That's kind of how I felt, too. Terminator Salvation, the most forgettable film I can remember. I saw it in the theater, and I barely remember it. So, yeah, I'm going to watch it again. I know I need to get the slip for this, but I'm just going to get that UK exclusive 4K instead at some point. We got Terminator Genesis, which I've not watched yet, but this is the Target exclusive steelbook with the 4K inserted because it normally doesn't come with it. Amelia Clark. And then we got Terminator Dark Fate, which I also have not seen. This is the Best Buy exclusive 4K set. Gonna watch all of these back to back soon. And then I still need to finish this series. I remembered watching it on TV, but I never finished it, was the Sarah Connor Chronicles. This is the region-free collection of both seasons. It didn't last very long, but I loved it when I watched it. I just, for whatever reason, I fell out of it. I think this happens with me a lot. Like, if I get distracted or something else comes up, then it just falls by the wayside. Terrifier. Really creepy. Art the Clown. You got poor Catherine Cochran there, hung upside down naked except for a thong, and, spoiler alert, sawed in half vertically down this way. One of the most horrific deaths I've ever seen in any film. Gorgeous steelbook, really great, low budget, brutal, nasty, unforgiving, unrelenting horror film. Definitely recommend it if you have the stomach for it. Terror Vision and the Video Dead, still gotta watch this. I heard James Rolfe really liked Terror Vision. That Thing You Do, this is Tom Hanks, one of his only directorial efforts, the other one being Larry Crowne, but this one is really, really good. It's all about, one-hit wonder band in the wake of Beatlemania, and it captures the period really well. It has one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in any film. Absolutely love it. The director's cut's really cool, too, because it's much longer, gives you a much wider scope for the story. And then, what else do we have? We got this super cool custom cover for There Will Be Blood. Arguably Paul Thomas Anderson's best film. Daniel Day-Lewis absolutely deserved Best Actor. He acted his ass off in this. Again, my personal favorite's Punch Drunk Love because I relate to it. But this film very, very closely followed. If you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw, you see? Watch. My straw reaches across the room and starts to drink your milkshake. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. Ugh, so quotable. I have to do that every time I talk about that movie. There's Something About Mary, classic comedy. They Live, the Studio Canal UK exclusive 4K with the slip. The Thing, the Scream Factory steelbook, gorgeous steelbook. This is the 3-disc edition with that more recent 4K transfer, which looks gorgeous. It's this. If you have the Arrow one, like I used to have, it's that same transfer, but this one has more content. The Thing, the 2011 prequel, which I've still not watched yet. This Is the End. What a batshit crazy film this is. Time Traveler's Wife. Why do I own this? Um, Tin Man, a really good miniseries. I remembered watching it when it first aired. This was my introduction to Zoe Deschanel, and I love Alan Cumming here. I love the reimagining of the Oz world, and I do like that that it's still set in the Oz universe that we know from the books. Titanic, I think probably James Cameron's. It's either Terminator 2 or this film. Probably this film for me as far as his best film. Again, what can I say that hasn't already been said? This film just changed everything, and it's the epic of epics for its time, certainly, and it still holds up. It really does. Um, Julie Taymor's Titus, one of the best and most underrated Shakespeare adaptations from one of Shakespeare's more underrated plays. A really gory play, but done very, very well in this film. And that was her feature film debut after having done The Lion King on the stage. To Be or Not to Be, a really great World War II era comedy. Um, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Steelbook. Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, Steelbook. Both of those 4Ks. And then the new Tomb Raider with Elijah Vikander as Lara Croft. I just put those under T. I've seen the two Angelina Jolie ones, which I enjoyed. I've not watched the new one, but I've heard good things. I really love the rebooted Tomb Raider, not Terminator, Tomb Raider game, the PS3/PS4 era one that kind of reinvented Lara Croft as a character. And I know it takes after that more, so I'm looking forward to that. Tombstone, kind of one of the iconic relatively modern westerns, and one of the more iconic recent like guy movies. It definitely is like a classic guy movie, but you can see why, because it's really damn good. Toxic Avenger 1, signed by Lloyd Kaufman. Toxic Avenger 2, signed by Lloyd Kaufman. Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie, signed by Lloyd Kaufman. And Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger 4, signed by Lloyd Kaufman. The Toxic Avenger is basically Troma's Mickey Mouse. It's their mascot character. Iconic films, blending horror and comedy and superheroes and all kinds of wacky shit. Definitely put Troma on the map, so definitely give those a watch. Toy Story 1 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. Toy Story 2 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. Toy Story 3 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. Toy Story 4 4K Steelbook from Best Buy. Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story That Time Forgot. Whew. I love the Toy Story series, one of the best film series ever. My favorites are, I would put them as 1, 3, then 2, and then 4. And these are the cool Halloween and Christmas specials, respectively. 4, to me, 4, it's more like an epilogue than really a fourth installment, really. It feels like an epilogue. It's not, like, the third one to me is like the climax, and then this is just what happened to everybody, basically. But it's still good for what it is. We got Trick or Treat, which, oh, look at that. Absolutely amazing horror anthology film. Definitely recommend it. Gorgeous Scream Factory slip there. I need to take a drink from my tea. My shoulder's hurting. I'm almost done, I hope, if I live. Alright. Controversial film time. Warning. Triumph of the Will. This is the Leni Riefenstahl Nazi propaganda documentary that, despite being Nazi propaganda, is one of the most influential films ever because of the visuals. This movie influenced so many filmmakers in like fiction films, and in just, it's so powerful with its images, and it's like you can see why, for its time, why it was effective propaganda, because visually it is absolutely stunning. It's a monumental work of filmmaking that you have got to see if you at all care about filmmaking, and really good, again, to study for the study of propaganda. That way you know it when you see it. That way you can recognize what is propaganda, like why is it effective, how, all that stuff. And I kept asking myself, would this be effective today to like sway people into becoming neo Nazis or something? I personally don't think so, because a lot of what they talk about in here is very much like rights of the German worker and like a lot of like economic stuff that was relevant to the time. There's not really any mention of, as far as I remember, there's not a mention of the Holocaust or anything like that. Nothing really that would, present the Nazis in a negative light that we know them to be today, because obviously it's trying to rally people to their cause. But the propagandic aspects of it, I think, would have only really been relevant for people at the time, in terms of what they actually talk about versus the visuals themselves. Those might, be more persuasive, but again, not advocating anything, bad or anything. Just seriously watch the movie, though, if you want to learn about what propaganda is and how it was used to its desired effect, and how you can learn visual ideas, things like that. And it's chilling too, because of just, this was a whole country of people that were seduced by this, genocidal madman who was obviously highly charismatic and persuasive, and could sway so many people under his spell, basically. But yeah, highly recommend it. Again, dedicated to film preservation, and it's well worth watching if you care about film. 999 with the Slip. Still haven't watched it, but it's got quite the cast, I have to say, and Teresa Palmer. Got Troll 1 and 2. This is the Eureka Films version from the UK, which I think that cover is a lot better than the Scream Factory one, which the Scream Factory one's out of print now. This one, I believe, was an Amazon exclusive, and this one has the documentary Best Worst Movie in high definition, which is really great, because the Scream Factory one just has it on DVD. So yeah, and the cover's really cool. Troma's War. This was a film that did not really do all that well for Troma, despite them having kind of carved out a little niche in the theatrical space for a while. This one didn't really make a lot of money back, but it's still quite good for what it is. I know that the MPAA kind of butchered it as far as like cutting out bullet hits and things like that. But this is the fully uncut version, and it's really good for what it is. It's definitely it's a good kind of anti-war, Reagan era arms build-up kind of film. My favorite Troma film, my favorite Lloyd Kaufman film, and one of my favorite Shakespeare adaptations, Tromeo and Juliet, signed by Lloyd Kaufman and James Gunn. That's right, this was his screenwriting debut. Highly recommend this film. It's batshit crazy, but the love story is done very well. Will Keenan and Jane Jensen, they have amazing chemistry in here. It's super funny, really perverted, really whacked out of its mind. That's why I love it. One of my favorite films of all time, The Truman Show, with Jim Carrey, possibly his best performance in any film. This film will break your heart. It really will. And it really foreshadowed a lot of our world today. It's got a lot in common with Hamlet, too, if you're a Shakespeare fan like I am. UHF, Weird Al's feature film. Highly recommend it, with the super cool Shout Factory version with the slip, which I didn't even know it had a slip cover, and I managed to find it with the slip cover. If you're a Weird Al fan like me, then this is essential viewing. It's quite the cult classic. It has a lot of not yet stars like Michael Richards and Fran Drescher. Excuse me. Fran Drescher, this was before The Nanny. Victoria Jackson, I think, was on SNL at the time, but she wasn't like a megastar or anything. Still, highly recommend it. It's definitely a cult classic for sure. Ultraviolet, I feel bad for the director because I know that most of what he shot for this film ended up getting cut, and so what we were left with was really just a butchered version of his original vision. I'd love to see like a fully uncut version of this, like a full director's cut version. Visually, it's quite interesting, but just overall, it's kind of a mess. We got Unbreakable here. I would have said this was M. Night Shyamalan's most underrated film, except that it's gotten quite the critical reappraisal because of the superhero genre having fully come into its own. This was kind of an art house superhero film before the big superhero film boom. Um, and the fact that this film got two sequels, it's like, well, you can't really call it underrated anymore, can you? But still, really, really great film. Quentin Tarantino summed it up best. He said that it was basically, what if Superman existed on Earth and never knew that he was Superman? That's essentially what it's about. But there's a lot more to it than that. Um, Unbroken, the Angelina Jolie directorial film, which I still need to watch. Um, Uncut Gems, one of Adam Sandler's best performances by far, absolutely knocked it out of the park. Highly underappreciated 2019 film. Where was this around Oscar time? I have no idea. Oscars are out of touch. Um, Under the Skin, Scarlett Johansson knocked it out of the park in this really eerie sci-fi horror art house film. And, if nothing else, you see her naked, and it's like, whew. But really, really great film for what it is. It may not be for everyone, because it is slow and largely very silent. But as a sci-fi film, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Saw it on the big screen. Um, Underworld in 4K, which I need to get the other ones, but I like this one with the slipcover too. Unfriended, which I really like this found footage film. I am glad to see that they did a film like this. I actually watched this on my computer screen while I had two monitors. I had it on one monitor and I had another monitor open. To call me crazy, but I actually thought that was the best way to watch a film like this because it kind of immerses you into the, video chat thing even more, especially like if you have this full screen, it makes you think that it's going on your computer. Yeah, normally it's like I want to, watch it in its proper way or whatever, but out of all the films to actually watch on your computer, this is actually a pretty good one because it immerses you even more. I wish that I had the slip for this, and I'm going to try and track it down. Unknown, Edge of Darkness, Training Day, and Seven. Um, Highly underrated film, Untraceable. This movie predicted so much of what we know about the dark web today, about snuff videos on there, and people like Peter Scully and things like that. Highly recommend it. It was way ahead of its time. Up in the Air, one of my favorite George Clooney performance. The only George Clooney character to whom I can really relate, which George Clooney, he's always like the guy that men tend to want to be because he's obviously really handsome and everyone loves him and he's charismatic and self-assured and all that stuff. In here, he's all those things except that he's very self-isolating and like deliberately self-isolating because he's living a life in which he can't get close to people, and by the time he wakes up to it, it's too late to change anything. And I think that is a really good cautionary tale, certainly for someone like me. Highly recommend it. It really left. I remember exiting the theater and people were like, "That was depressing." And keep in mind, this was like right as the economy was like in the absolute shitter. Not as bad as it is right now, though, but still. I can imagine why maybe it didn't resonate with a lot of people because it maybe was a little too real, but still. Good art does that. Good art hits you right there. USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage, with Nicolas Cage. Still got to watch it. Obviously, Nicolas Cage is the man. The Usual Suspects. This deserves a Criterion release. Absolutely love this film. Again, heartbreaking about what all went on with Bryan Singer and with Kevin Spacey. But again, the film itself holds up remarkably well. It's got one of the best scripts ever. Cannot believe that Roger Ebert hated it. One of my biggest points of disagreement. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, the Steelbook, the Best Buy Steelbook. And what's that? It's the 4K disc thrown in there. That's right, because I do that. Very, I think, underrated sci-fi film. I like that this was very clearly not American in its style and in its feel, even though it had, a lot of American or English speaking actors. It did feel very French because it's based on a French comic directed by Luc Besson. So I'm just, again, I like seeing other countries, other cultures get to have their space. Valley of the Dolls. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is not related to this at all, other than the title. It's actually more of a parody of this kind of movie and movies in general. But this film, it was an adaptation of a very successful book. It's quite a melodrama. It's not all of it really works, but it has a John Williams score before Jaws, and the late great Sharon Tate does a great job in this. Again, horrific tragedy what happened to her and to the other victims of the Manson family murders. Vampire Girl versus Frankenstein Girl. Girls and blood and batshit insanity from Japan, why not? And it's from 11 Arts and Funimation, which is interesting because Funimation's known for their anime releases. Vampire's Assistant Cirque du Freak. I haven't watched this yet. Vampire's Kiss and High Spirits. I've not watched High Spirits yet. Vampire's Kiss is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. Just please watch it. You know that meme with the you don't say that meme with Nicolas Cage? It's from this, and this movie is like, I think Jim Carrey would be jealous of just how manic and over the top hilarious Nicolas Cage is in this film. And they just went for broke with this movie, and for me they succeeded unbelievably well. If you have a dark sense of humor, this will make you laugh all the way through. Highly recommend it. I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! And, oh yeah, by the way, best movie ever made, The Velocipaster. This movie will change your life. It's up there with Sharknado in that respect. Highly recommend this film. It is so much fun, so self-aware. I can't say enough great things about it. It's so fucking funny. You have got to check it out. Please, just buy it right now. Vendetta, the Soska Sisters doing like a prison action film with Dean Cain and The Big Show. And what's that? Signed by the Soska Sisters. That's right. And then we got Venom, the Best Buy exclusive 4K Steelbook. I really liked Venom. I don't know what people were on about. I really liked it. They managed to make Venom work without Spider-Man, which is kind of a monumental task. Would I have liked to have seen Spider-Man in it? Of course. I want to see him and Spider-Man go at it in a proper fashion, but without having Spider-Man, they made Venom really work in this, I thought. They had a lot of great homages to the different iterations of Venom across the comics and the shows and the movies and this and that. They had Bride of Venom in there. They had elements from Planet of the Symbiotes, from Lethal Protector, all kinds of stuff. Very rewarding for the fans, I think. VHS 1 with that Canadian slip. VHS 2, the best installment in the series, with the VHS tape, along with the Blu-ray, which is super, super cool. And VHS Viral, which is not very good. It has some good parts, but overall it's just not very good. Great series, though, of, horror anthologies, but also of found footage as well. I highly recommend it. My throat hurts. My shoulder hurts. We gotta keep going. Videodrome, the David Cronenberg masterpiece. Again, arguably one of his best films. Love it. Criterion Collection. The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan's found footage comeback movie. Highly recommend it. Oliver Stone's movie about George W. Bush. Highly underrated. Didn't get the love that it deserves. I think it was quite good. I think it was actually, honestly, I think it was pretty fair to the guy, which I know Oliver Stone hated him, but he, I think, did a pretty good job of, humanizing him and making, showing his good sides, his bad sides, his rise, his fall, his everything. There's a lot to talk about with George W. Bush. And then we got Wanna Be the Smartest in the World. the strongest in the world, excuse me. Want to be the smartest in the world. That sounds like a game show. Want to be the strongest in the world. Anime about female pro wrestling with a ton of boobalicious ladies. Watch it. What more do you need to say? We got A Walk Among the Tombstones. Still need to watch that. Just got this, The War of the Worlds, the 1953 version. I have not watched this for such a long time, but it's an iconic sci-fi film. Kind of one of those foundational sci-fi films. I do prefer in the Spielberg version that they actually got the tripod design of the vessels and stuff. They got that correct because that's in the book, which I have read. But the book wasn't set in the 21st century. Obviously, it was written in the early 1900s, like around 1900 actually, or 1910, something like that. And it's set in that time period. But this, they're like flying saucers, which they don't have the tripods or whatever. But still, it's a good film. Warm Bodies, gotta rewatch this. I didn't really care for it when I first saw it, but it's on 4K. Teresa Palmer. The theatrical cut of The Warriors with that really cool theatrical poster. This is a bootleg. I need to get the director's cut as well, the one that's kind of CGI enhanced. But I'm glad that the theatrical cut exists now in some form. The Ultimate Edition of Watchmen. I hated the theatrical cut of the film. Then later when I saw the Ultimate cut, I loved it because they added back in a lot of deleted scenes that really helped contextualize the world. They edited back in the Tales from the Black Freighter. I mean, they just gave you the whole story, and Watchmen is all about the whole story. And so in that respect, I was able to appreciate it a lot more. And then we have the HBO series of Watchmen, the Best Buy exclusive Steelbook. Still need to watch it. I understand it's a sequel to the graphic novel rather than the movie version of things. But I heard really good things about it. It's too bad it's not coming back. It's just the one season. The Way Back, I remembered hating this movie when I saw it in the theater, but again, 2013 was a bad year for me. I need to watch it again. This cool Westerns pack here with Pale Rider, The Wild Bunch, Rio Bravo, How the West Was Won, and The Searchers. It's region free. Whip It with Ellen Page. Still gotta watch it. Got it for cheap. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot with Tina Fey, directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Requa. Margot Robbie in there. Really great film. Highly recommend it. Based on a true story, too. White Christmas, probably the first Christmas film I can ever remember watching. Iconic musical. Highly recommend it if you've never seen it. White Zombie, the first zombie movie, I think. But this is like the classical, like, voodoo version of zombies that are reanimated corpses that are under a spell. And yeah, so highly, highly recommended. This is in the public domain now. Very underrated classic horror film, if that makes sense. This custom cover for Wild Things, which I've not watched yet, but look how cool that looks. And, you know, Nev Campbell and Denise Richards. Willow Creek, one of my favorite found footage films of all time. Highly underrated. It's directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, who did Shakes the Clown, which I really liked. My favorite horror film of the 2010s by far, The Witch. Absolutely love this film. It was atmospheric. It was really creepy. It took witchcraft seriously. It took the Puritans seriously. It didn't mock them in that, like, classical, like, Family Guy kind of dismissive attitude. It took their fears seriously. It took their beliefs seriously. And the actual witch in here and the threat she poses is really terrifying. And it just captures what a harsh environment those early settlers had to go through in this country. You know, again, everything could kill you. Death was around every corner. This one is called Witch's Brew. It was a horror pack exclusive. Still haven't watched it. Zav exclusive of Wolf Creek, the first one. Still gotta watch it. It's a UK one. The Wolf of Wall Street, one of my favorite Scorsese films. One is Leonardo one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best roles, and the film that introduced me and the rest of the world to Margot Robbie. When I saw the trailer for this film, I saw her and I was like, who is that? I don't care if this movie sucks. I am seeing it. And I saw it, and it didn't disappoint. She didn't disappoint. I knew she would be a big star. I was right. I know how to pick them. The Wolfman, the original Universal series here. I have all of the Universal classic monsters on their own sets, which is really great because those were quite foundational for my endeavors into horror films. The Wolfman, the 2010 remake, really enjoyed it. World War Z with this super cool custom cover here. Still haven't watched it, but I love this custom cover. It looks so much cooler than the normal theatrical poster. The Woman in Black with that lenticular Canadian cover, still gotta watch it. It's one of the newer Hammer horror films. I'm glad that they resurrected the Hammer brand. Woman in Black 2, still gotta watch that. Wonder Woman, by far and away the best DC Extended Universe film. Gal Gadot, like, how could anybody else play Wonder Woman? She's, as far as I'm concerned, she's like Christopher Reeve as Superman, like that iconic. What a great film this is. Can't say enough good things about it. The Wrestler, possibly my favorite. Actually, no. Mother, I think, is my favorite Darren Aronofsky film, which I still don't have in the collection. And I love Noah, and I love The Wrestler. This film introduced me to the world of professional wrestling, which, man, the world of professional wrestling, it is fascinating. Like, it has so many elements to it that I had no clue about. Highly recommend this film. It'll get you addicted to knowing all the behind the scenes of wrestling, like I have. Wormwood, Road of the Dead, which I've heard is basically, as they say on the top there, Mad Max meets Dawn of the Dead, which I've heard nothing but great things about. And then this was a recent acquisition. This is really out of print. This X-Files 2-pack here of Fight the Future and I Want to Believe. Those are the two movies that they did. It's funny, this on screen is just called The X-Files, and officially it's just called The X-Files, but then on home video it was released as X-Files Fight the Future because of the way that the tagline of Fight the Future, the way it looked like a subtitle, so it just kind of became a subtitle for the movie, which is hilarious. But that's okay, because I think it's a good title. X-Men, the original trilogy on 4K. I guess this must be out of print now, because this was not easy to find, especially not with the slip box. And then X-Men Origins Wolverine, bleh, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. X-Men First Class with the Deadpool slip, and I have the 4K of it. The Wolverine in 3D with the slip, still not on 4K yet. X-Men Days of Future Past with the Deadpool slip on 4K. We got the Rogue cut of Days of Future Past with that super cool gatefold slip. This was not easy to find either. I guess people are holding on to these. Not watched the Rogue cut yet, but I want to, because that's Days of Future Past is by far the best X-Men film. Deadpool with that Walmart exclusive 4K slip with him on the unicorn. And then we got the Deadpool slip for X-Men Apocalypse on 4K. It was okay. It wasn't anywhere near as good as Days of Future Past. Kind of disappointing, but then again, Days of Future Past was so good that it's like, how can you top that, really? Logan, actually, yes, you can top it. If you're counting this one, which is obviously Wolverine-centric, but if you're counting that in the broader category of X-Men films, by far and away, the best X-Men film, one of the best superhero films ever made. I love this design here, which this one's technically a Deadpool slip, even though it's just an arm, but it looks cooler than that. I just love this because it evokes Schindler's List, like that kind of hands clasping thing. Oh, I saw this in the theater. It was so good. It reminded me of Breaking Bad in that kind of grim tone. And Deadpool 2, the Target exclusive version with the Not for Children's book that looks like those, golden books that we used to read when we were kids. And X-Men Dark Phoenix with the Target exclusive slip. Still not watched this one. Heard bad things. The New Mutants is coming out. Who knows how good that's going to be. I feel so sorry for that movie. It got delayed so often. Triple X State of the Union. I do not have the other two Triple X films. I'm going to get them. I wanted to snag this one up because it's apparently very hard to find and expensive. So yeah, got it for relatively cheap. Yankee Doodle Dandy, one of the best musicals ever made. Great wartime musical about a real person, real song and dance man. Yes Man with Jim Carrey. Peyton Reed directed it. Not Jim Carrey's best movie, but, it's got its moments for sure. I like the message of it, too. You've Got Mail. I've seen this movie probably more times than any other movie just because it was on TV all the time, and my mom would play it on TV all the time. I really loved Nora Ephron as a writer. I think I'm so sad that she's dead now. I think the world is missing a great talent. Young adult, speaking of great female writers, Diablo Cody, this is one of her best scripts by far, one of Jason Reitman's best directorial efforts. It's such a profoundly depressing film, but in the best possible way. Like, it's such a great feel-bad movie. I think that was one of the critics. I can't remember who, but someone said it was one of the best feel-bad movies ever, and it is. Like, it's weird to say, but it's depressing, and yet it is so great to watch because of that. And I think it says a lot of really true things about life, is that a lot of people are really, really superficial. A lot of people have mental illnesses that they don't treat or don't acknowledge, and when given the opportunity to change, they decide not to, and so they're back to their self-isolating lives. It's the same kind of moral of like Up in the Air, which Jason Reitman also did. Zardoz on Arrow. This has Sean Connery and a mankini, or a banana hammock, or whatever you want to say. Zombievers, one of the best movies ever made. Listen, we cannot be fighting amongst ourselves. That is exactly what the Beavers would want. Best line in a movie ever. We got Lucio Fulci's Zombie in 4K. How cool is that? Still got to finish this film. Again, I get sidetracked a lot. Other things come up. Zombie Fight Club with the slip there. Still got to watch that. Scream Factory. Zombie Hunter with Danny Trejo. Gotta love Danny Trejo versus zombies, and he's in a priest uniform. This cool zombie triple feature pack featuring Survival of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Dawn of the Dead 2008, that remake, with the slip. We got this Zombies 4-pack of The Demented, The Crazies remake, Mimesis, Dawn of the Dead, and The Terror Experiment. It's from Anchor Bay. And then, last up, for the Blu-rays anyway, the conventional Blu-rays, the two Zorro films, Mask of Zorro and Legend of Zorro. And I put them under Z because there are other Zorro movies besides these that I need to get in the collection. I'll just put them in there. That is it for the conventional Blu-rays and things, and I say that because we have the Hex Media films by my friend Laurie Brewster from Scotland. Lord of Tears, and The Unkindness of Ravens. These are like the Blu-ray DVD packs. The Black Gloves, The Devil's Machine, and For We Are Many, which I have a segment in. My segment's The Slaughtering Ground. How cool is that? I put these separate from the other ones because, well, the packaging is bigger, and it's like when I have to double stack things, the spacing gets weird, and it's like it would look bad if I did it otherwise, so I kind of have to put these off on their own, and I just put them together because look how beautiful that packaging is. They go above and beyond with these these films. And we got the DVDs. Now, I only have a few DVDs because I'm such a Blu-ray person, so we'll get through these pretty quickly. We got a bootleg of this alien abduction incident in Lake County, which a friend, Donald Wills, gave to me. The Aristocrats, the exact opposite of politically correct. This movie is about the dirtiest, filthiest joke of all time, the Aristocrats joke. It's a documentary 100 different comedians telling their versions of the joke or talking about the joke or whatever. Highly, highly recommended if you're a fan of like the history of comedy, of stand-up comedy, of joke telling in general, of pushing the boundaries of good taste and, advocating for freedom of speech and things like that. If this is a film that probably wouldn't fly today, and it was just, again, it's funny that they like who they were pushing the envelope against back in 2005 versus who you'd be pushing the envelope against now, in terms of speech and everything. But if you're a free speech advocate like I am, then highly, highly recommend it. And if you just like comedy. But again, be warned, this is like the most obscene movie that you'll ever see that doesn't have any sex, nudity, violence, anything like that. It's just all spoken. Again, the descriptions are like unspeakable. It's like instant YouTube demonetization. The Axe to Grind, the first installment in the Axe to Grind series. I am the executive producer of Axe to Grind, the sequel, which is wrapping up its Indiegogo. Highly anticipating it. The sequel has Debbie Rochon and Stormy Daniels in it, among other really cool horror scream queens. We got Beginners here, which this is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack, but it's in a DVD case, so I put it in the DVDs. Highly recommend this film. It's a really, really great romantic drama. Yeah, highly recommend it. Christopher Plummer won Best Supporting Actor for it. Black Xmas, the 2006 remake of Black Christmas. I borrowed this from my friend Esmeralda James. I need to return it after I watch it. The Blu-ray of that is out, but it is ridiculously expensive. It's like $200. It's unbelievable. I actually have a role in this movie, Blood of the Mummy. You can get this on Walmart's website. I play a mental patient wearing a pink bathrobe holding 2 pink unicorns, one of which gets stolen. Typecasting, I know. And I just throw in there Finding Christmas, which this is a locally produced film that I don't know if it'll ever get an official release, but I have a role in there as a homeless man, just a little brief walk-on role. Clown House. This is a film that should get a Shout Factory release, but it most likely won't because of the infamous history that this film has. Victor Salva was abusing one of the young male stars in this film, and he went to jail for it and is still a registered sex offender because of it, all that stuff. This film came out on DVD back in like 2003 because, again, it was an MGM film. It was kind of, I guess, to try and capitalize off of Jeepers Creepers 2, which had come out. It got pulled off the shelves really quickly because, of the infamous history it has. And again, it's too bad for those involved, but also the film itself, in and of itself, great film. One of the best clown films I've ever seen. Again, as an artist, Victor Salva has to be one of the more unique horror filmmakers. It's just, I don't, condone anything that he did or anything like that. But I am glad that he went through the legal system and, at the very least, he didn't evade justice like, Roman Polanski did. And, and I am of the opinion that even though, people committed crimes and did horrible things, do they deserve the chance to redeem themselves and to try and make something right again, still contribute something to the world? Yeah, I do. And I think, you can, I leave that up to you, but still, I think it's something to think about. But great film. This DVD is super out of print, and it's really, really expensive. Again, I wish it would get a Scream Factory release, but it probably won't. Creep. This film needs a Blu-ray release, but man, the best found footage film I've ever seen. Highly recommend it. Really disturbing. Really a great example of how you do not need a lot of money to make a really creepy film. Found footage that is done unbelievably well. Speaking of found footage, Dark Web Mystery Box. I'm in this movie. That's right. I have an acting role in this. I play Jordan into Mystery, and I play the character whose character gets a VHS tape in the mail and thinks it's fake, like the snuff video in there is fake, and realizes quickly that there's more to it than that. and that was done by a bunch of friends of mine, like Tony Newton. Drive Through. This film has one of the coolest creepy clowns in it ever, and it's kind of a dark comedy, kind of parody of McDonald's and fast food and things like that. Slasher film. I wish it would get a Blu-ray release. Another Tony Newton anthology, Faces of Snuff, signed by the filmmakers, put out by Wild Eye, releasing through their Raw label. And this film, it is basically emulating snuff films, like what they're supposed to be like and look like. And they got away with all kinds of stuff that I'm surprised that they got away with, including unsimulated sex and like actual, penetration, because it's like, a porn film that goes wrong and turns into a snuff film. But I was like, well, good for you. Like a lot of mainstream and even direct-to-video horror films wouldn't go that far. Flight of the Conchords season 1 and 2, absolutely love the show. I'm so sad it only lasted 2 seasons, but the 2 seasons we got were so good. Highly recommend it. I wish it came out on Blu-ray. The poster's trying to kill me, but we keep going. Last Days in the Desert. This deserves a Criterion release. It really does. This is up there with Last Temptation of Christ as far as like a take on Jesus and a take on the trials in the desert that he undertook, the temptations by the devil. I cannot recommend this film highly enough. It really makes you think. It challenges a lot of preconceptions. It has one of the most beautiful dialogue exchanges that I've heard in a movie, where Satan is talking to Jesus in the desert, and because Satan was Lucifer, obviously the most beautiful of the angels in heaven, he actually describes to Jesus what heaven is like and what it was like to stand in God's presence and things like that, and it was so beautifully written. I can't say enough good things about this film. We got Lolly Love, autographed by Lloyd Kaufman, who has a small role in the film. Jenna Fisher directed this film and stars in it along with her then husband James Gunn. One of the best mockumentary films that most people have not seen, which is too bad, and it actually came out before The Office. 1 year before Jenna Fisher was on the American version of The Office. The complete Mighty Morphin Power Rangers collection, signed by Zach the Black Ranger, Billy the Blue Ranger, Jason the Red Ranger, Tommy the White/Green Ranger, Lord Zed, and Alpha 5. One of my most prized possessions. I gotta get some more signatures on this, but man, love this show. Iconic show of the 90s. One of my favorite things when I was a kid. Can't say enough good things about the show. Objectively, is it good? No, it's cheesy as hell, but, I mean, we were kids, and, are you saying that it's, any better or worse or any different than something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? It's in that same vein, come on. The Museum Project, this is a bootleg that Donald Wills gave me of a found footage film. I still gotta watch it. The Neighbors, Tommy Wiseau's highly anticipated masterpiece of a TV show, following up The Room. This does not disappoint at all. It's so funny for how just Tommy Wiseau it is. The difference, though, is that this was intended to be funny, and it is funny, again, because it's very poorly produced and poorly acted and everything, but The Room is, like, unintentionally funny, but this is meant to be funny, and I found it quite funny for what it was. Not another happy ending with Karen Gillan, who you see a little bit in the nude there, but she's I absolutely love her to death. I think she's an immensely talented actress, gorgeous, wonderful, sweet person. I've met her in person. Heart was beating out of my chest. I love her so much. The film itself is okay. It's a little slow, not enough tension, but, it's alright. And then we got Old 37, signed by Lloyd Kaufman, because he has a small cameo in this, kind of underrated, it's alright. It's not, like, amazing, but, a little indie slasher film. Shot in, I think, Long Island, New York. The Party's Just Begun, Karen Gillan. Her writer, director, feature film debut there, only on DVD, but I've heard really, really great things about this film too. Um, and yeah, I think she's just an amazing talent. Love her. This Richard Pryor set of I got this film because of the Mac, which is not on Blu-ray for some reason. One of the most iconic blaxploitation films of all time, and a great film, but with Richard Pryor. But this one has Grease Lightning, Moving, The Mac, and Uptown Saturday Night with Bill Cosby, and let's not go there. And arguably the most controversial film in my collection. Arguably, it's kind of up for grabs at this point. A Serbian film, uncut, on DVD. That's right, I own it. I was really lucky to find this. This is by far and away the most expensive DVD in my collection. It was $80. That's right. But the reason why is because the fully uncut version of this film is not easy to come by at all. One copy of it popped up on Amazon. I snatched it up like that. The one that kind of comes in and out of print in the US is the 103-minute version. This is the 104-minute version, the fully uncut version of certainly the most infamous film of the 2010s. Again, I would argue that The Passion of the Christ was a more controversial film overall, like for society at large. This film caused more of a stir in the internet sphere. But again, this film, I don't think it gets the praise that it deserves because, yeah, it's disturbing. Yeah, it's unsettling, and it deals with the darkest themes you can possibly imagine. But guess what? Happens every day in the world. You know, child pornography exists. People like Peter Scully exist. Snuff videos exist. You know, there are people who get routinely abused and exploited and human trafficking and all that stuff. You know, why get mad at a fiction film that talks about that stuff and tries to show it in all of its horribleness? And why get mad at that instead of getting more mad at the real people that do all that stuff? I mean, I give them all the credit in the world for not flinching and for really just showing what a horrific thing this all is. If you have the stomach for it, I definitely recommend it, to be honest. But again, I just don't get the hate that this gets. I mean, I think it was quite courageous filmmaking, and it was, you know, it's not on the side of the people doing it. It's very anti, you know, all of the bad stuff that that Vukmir is doing in the film. But, and it's also not as explicit as people say it is. At least I didn't think so. I think actually in terms of violence, I think the Saw films are gorier than this, but still, it's very disturbing. But if you can track down the fully uncut version, definitely check it out. It is not easy to come by. Even the 103-minute version, that one's not easy to come by. This is like a really suppressed movie, which is, again, talking about film preservation and film education. Gotta have it. Because, again, we can't change the world unless we look at the ugly parts straight in the face, so that way we can change them. Superman, the complete animated series. This needs a Blu-ray release. Arguably, I mean, well, see, here's the thing. Christopher Reeve, in terms of live action, he was Superman, without a doubt. As far as, like, an overall, just other media interpretation of Superman, this one's probably the best overall, in the same way that Batman the Animated Series was for Batman. Highly recommend this show. It does Superman incredibly well. You see his rogues gallery. He's not all powerful. He has a lot more weaknesses. You know, they flesh out his just character and everything. It's just wonderful. Tales from the Crapper, which this movie's a train wreck, and Lloyd will be the first to tell you that. I love what he wrote here. He says, "To Dane, your movies will be better than this." It's worth keeping for that reason alone. But it's a complete train wreck. But look no further than you know, some of his talks about how that movie did not go well. The Japanese cut of The Toxic Avenger, which is a little bit longer than the American cut. Glad to have this in the collection. Still need to watch it. Virus of the Dead, another Tony Newton anthology that I still need to watch. Weird Al, the Complete Owl, signed by the man himself, and the Weird Al show signed by Peyton Reed, who directed every episode. Weird Al is a hero of mine. He's one of my icons, someone that I look up to, and I'm so privileged to have the director's signature and his signature. I mean, all right. And that is it for all the DVDs. We're on the home stretch now. We just got a few box sets, and then we will be done. We got Tron Legacy and the first Tron in this super cool disc box set, or, this special container. Got the Axe Grinder collection from David Sterling in this cardboard box here. Not Axe 2 Grind, the Axe Grinder set. We got the Camp Blood series from David Sterling. Look how beautiful that is. I can't whistle, sorry. Will tear your soul apart. The Hellraiser Arrow set with the first 3 films on Steelbook. This is the Zavvi exclusive bust of our dear Pinhead here. Looks amazing. Absolutely love that set. And then we got the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the really hard to find out of print 4K set with the record, with the posters, with all the Mad Magazine, the extras, the this, the that. Margot Robbie's in this. Perfect choice for Sharon Tate. I need to watch this again. I remember being a little disappointed with the movie overall, but again, I gotta watch it again. I think Tarantino's films, even the ones that they don't immediately resonate with you, they tend to be growers. So I'm eagerly looking forward to rewatching that when I am not doing this kind of stuff. The Columbia Classics collection, this awesome 4K set that I participated in that poll that they did, and that helped determine the films that got in here. We got Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Lawrence of Arabia, Doctor Strangelove, Gandhi, A League of Their Own, and Jerry Maguire, all on 4K. We got the FYE exclusive Night of the Living Dead Blu-ray set, the 50th anniversary, with the Criterion Collection version inside, plus a shitload of extras. Highly recommend it. One of the most iconic horror films of all time. Film that launched 1,000 zombie films. This is gonna kill me. We got the complete Ally McBeal series. This is super hard to find now, really out of print and expensive. I never finished the show. I got partially through season 5, and I got to finish it. I just remember it kind of petered out on me. Great soundtrack, though, of course. Vonda Shepard is iconic. Finally, the last in the collection. And a great one to end on. The Criterion Collection Godzilla set that looks like a children's book. So cool. Oh, it's so hard to open when I'm in this cramped little space. Well, guys, we've done it. We have gone through the entire collection. My stamina is 0. I can feel my memory growing faint.